Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Friday, May 21st. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Tears of joy at the border today as a local mother of an Army officer was allowed to return to her home of over 30 years. KPBS reporter Max Rivlin-Nadler was there as she was allowed to re-enter the U.S. due to a dramatic and surprising change in border policy.
Rocio Rebelar Gomez was in tears when she was sent to Mexico in the early days of 2020. Shocked that she was being deported despite a program meant to keep the parents of active military members in the United States. But on Thursday in Tijuana, Gomez was crying tears of happiness because she was about to walk a few city blocks, cross a border, and re-enter the life she had built for herself and her family in the United States.
Agradecida con Dios, primero que nada.
She said she was thankful to God more than anything because this was really a miracle, to be allowed back into her home, to be with her family, her children. Gomez was allowed into the country under a deal that has been negotiated between the American Civil Liberties Union and the Biden administration, meant to allow especially vulnerable people into the U.S., while the administration keeps the asylum system closed to almost everyone else.
Tengo mucha fe.
Gomez says she has faith in the new administration and that they're fighting for families like hers, keeping the promises they made to immigrants in this country. On Thursday afternoon at the San Ysidro Port of Entry, Customs and Border Protection agents called out Gomez's name. She walked past the wire fence that kept her from her family, and later that night reunited with them, something that seemed impossible only a few weeks ago. Gomez was supported by the group Border Angels and United Deported Veterans, which operates in Tijuana. Last month, Gomez told Dulce Garcia, the executive director of Border Angels, that she had been attacked and traumatized while in Tijuana. During a press conference on Friday, Garcia said that Gomez's case is not unique for those removed to Tijuana.
It's like her, so many people that have been deported are suffering from that deportation.
On Friday, Gomez, joined by her son and daughter, seemed more than anything to be relieved that after more than a year of distance and pain, their family would finally be able to spend a weekend together. Max Rivlin-Nadler, KPBS News.
And this is a busy time on the southern side of the border. Mexico is holding national elections in just a couple of weeks. Coming up a bit later, KPBS reporter Tanya Thorne tells us what's at stake and why the vote will be closely watched here in the U.S. And it's been a busy week for Border Patrol working cases of suspected human smuggling off San Diego's coast. The latest happened this morning in Mission Beach. An abandoned boat was found on the beach with a dozen life jackets, food, and other items on board. No people were found. This is the third similar case this week. Just yesterday, several people were rescued off Point Loma, and one person died. No more capacity limits, no more social distancing rules, just some of the changes state health officials say will go into effect on June 15th. KPBS reporter John Carroll has the story.
After so many months, so much loss because of the virus amongst us, finally, from the state viewpoint right down to here in San Diego County, the news today was almost uniformly good. The headline, June 15th, is the big day when most health-based restrictions go away. California Health and Human Services Secretary Dr. Mark Galley spelled it out in a morning conference call.
We will not have capacity limitations. Physical distancing, there will no longer be restrictions for attendees, customers, and guests in business sectors. Masking will follow the CDPH guidance for face coverings.
Galley says he expects guidance surrounding masks will change from time to time, but for the most part, requirements to wear them will go away. Restrictions surrounding travel will end for domestic trips. Galley says the state will follow CDC guidance when it comes to international travel. Galley says the state will recommend vaccination verification or a negative test for outdoor venues with more than 10,000 people. And if a person wants to go to a big event who can't show either of those things,
to give that person an option to come into the event, but to wear a mask throughout the event.
For indoor events with more than 5,000 people, the state will require proof of vaccination or a negative test. San Diego County has the highest vaccination rate of any Southern California county and one of the lowest death rates in the state. Still, 37 people have died from COVID here, one statistic that should never be forgotten, as this nightmare slowly fades and the light of a future free from pandemic restrictions draws closer. John Carroll, KPBS News.
It's a big milestone for California's fight against COVID-19. One of the Bay Area's biggest hospitals isn't treating a single patient for the virus. J.R. Stone has reaction from doctors who are overjoyed.
I did have tears in my eyes.
Dr. Monica Gandhi of San Francisco General Hospital is referring to her reaction when she saw updated numbers that General now has 0 COVID hospitalizations.
It feels like a milestone. There are 0 admissions at San Francisco General.
The news comes just 4 to 5 months after what was a very challenging time in the fight against COVID-19.
I think December and January were our busiest time when we were facing a third wave of cases, and we were extremely busy here in the hospital.
But Dr. Vivek Jain, also of SF General, says the huge acceptance of vaccines among San Francisco residents, where 76% of the population has received at least one shot, has helped lead to lower COVID rates citywide, and that is reflected at General.
All my friends have been vaccinated already, and finally, it's feeling good, hopeful.
UCSF reps tell us they currently have 5 patients being hospitalized for COVID-19 within their hospitals. Stanford telling us they also currently have 5 hospitalized with COVID. San Francisco General had 1 to 2 over the course of the last several weeks. And now this.
We are at that point where this is no longer a public health emergency.
That was J.R. Stone reporting. You can get the latest numbers on San Diego's vaccine progress at kpbs.org. We have a dashboard that also includes a map of local vaccine locations. To get there, just click on the vaccines link on our homepage. A medicine that can stop overdoses will soon be available at county clinics for anyone. KPBS reporter Alexandra Rangel has more on the county's efforts to increase access.
About 3.5 years ago, I lost my husband to a fentanyl overdose. At the time, I had no access to naloxone.
Since that day, Jess Flandro has made it her mission to educate people about naloxone. She carries at least 1 dose with her everywhere she goes and has even saved the lives of a handful of people, including some of her loved ones. In the hopes of preventing overdose deaths, San Diego County signed a policy Friday making naloxone, an overdose reversal drug, more widely available at clinics and community-based organizations. County Board Supervisor Nathan Fletcher says this policy is part of the board's new harm reduction strategy.
It will save lives. It will restore families. It will ensure people have an opportunity to live a full and productive life.
In 2020, San Diego County recorded 457 fentanyl-related overdose deaths. That's a 202% increase from 2019. Susan Monroe, a local paramedic, says readily available naloxone is needed.
Unfortunately, in the last 3 shifts, I've had 3 narcotic overdoses, and one of them did not survive.
Had naloxone been available, Monroe says that the patient might have had a different outcome. According to the county's Behavioral Health Services Director, Luke Bergman, the pandemic has taken a toll on people struggling with substance abuse.
In August of 2020 alone, an average of over 4 San Diegans died every day from a drug overdose.
Bergman says half of those are caused by fentanyl, a drug that has heavily infiltrated the community. The county says the biggest spikes in opioid overdoses are happening in North and East County.
It's often perceived as kind of an urban core type issue. It is not. It is not. And the data will show this affects every community of every ideology.
Naloxone is expected to be readily available at community clinics and organizations for free by next month. Alexandra Rangel, KPBS News.
Some hard work by firefighters in Santa Barbara kept a wind-whipped wildfire from burning more than 2 homes. And at one time, flames came oh so close to a TV station there.
TV studios here. This is our green screen for the weather. Right behind it, you can see the flames out this door. I'm gonna go outside real quick just to get you an idea of how close this is to our station. There are the flames right there. Right there. The wind is blowing away from us. And again, there is a home right over there. This fire is moving fast and hot. We're on TV Hill in Santa Monica. Trucks are coming. The neighbor down there has been putting some water out, trying to help us out.
Oh boy, incredibly close. The overnight fire triggered evacuations, but by daylight, crews had the fire contained to 20 acres, and no one was hurt. The cause remains under investigation. When you order an Uber or a Lyft in the years ahead, there's a good chance it will be an electric car. The California Air Resources Board just approved a plan to require 90% of all miles logged by rideshare companies to be electric by 2030. According to Cal Matters, just 1% of rides were electric in 2018. It's unclear how the companies will transition. Right now, both business models rely on drivers using their personal vehicles. Southern California freeway congestion has nearly returned to pre-pandemic levels. KPBS environment reporter Eric Anderson says it is a sign that the COVID-19 pandemic is loosening its grip on the region.
The evidence is not hard to find. These freeways, they may not be packed now, but in rush hour, they will be wall to wall with cars and trucks, just like it used to be.
Caltrans District 11 Director Gustavo Delarda says there are telltale signs that things are returning to normal.
A lot of the ramp meters started activating automatically for the morning and the afternoon commute. And the ramp meters activate when the freeway volumes start increasing and congestion starts building up. So you will see nowadays that most of the ramp meters are on in the morning and in the afternoon, and that's because traffic is getting bad like it used to be.
Delarda says the traffic hints that the economy is getting back on track and more people are returning to their offices. He says the situation a year ago was unprecedented.
It's exactly a year ago was when we saw some of our lowest volumes in history. I would say I've been here for 30 years and I had never seen anything like that. Most of our freeways were empty.
Delarda says traffic volumes are up on many freeways in the county, and some roads are even seeing higher traffic volumes than they had back in 2019. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
April was a big month for jobs in San Diego as the pandemic reopening ramped up. The state puts the county's unemployment rate at 6.7%. That's a significant drop from 7.8% back in March. At the peak of the shutdown 1 year ago, we were just under 16%. The state estimates nearly 10,000 jobs were added to the local economy last month. June 17th is a date Padres fans have circled on their calendars. The team announced today that's when Petco Park will reopen to full capacity. They're calling it San Diego's opening day. A bunch of special promotions and giveaways are planned for that first series against the Cincinnati Reds. There will also be a special tribute to frontline healthcare workers. Since the start of the season, the Padres have only been able to fill the stadium to less than half capacity. Getting back to normal also means dating. And like a lot of things these days, much of it starts with an app. Some of the most popular apps are working with the White House to offer extra features to those who can prove they are vaccinated. The premium content will be free. Among other things, you'll be able to adjust your setting to match with people who also have the vaccine. A White House senior advisor explained how it will work.
You can indicate your vaccination status, and you get some magical features in your app, which I don't know about because I've been married for 25 years. But apparently there are 50 million people that are on these apps, and I think it's an important part of people's lives. I mean, people, in all seriousness, people do miss their social lives. One thing interesting we saw is there's a piece of data which says that if you've been vaccinated, you're 14% more likely to get a match, which tells me that we finally found the universal serum for attractiveness, which is getting vaccinated.
Some of the apps taking part include Tinder, Hinge, OkCupid, and Bumble. Close to 50% of Americans have received at least one dose of the vaccine. This week brought word of a big merger that could bring a new player to the streaming wars. Here's SDSU's Miro Kopik with the Friday Business Report.
Time Warner is a very storied entertainment company. You have the studio, you have channels like HBO, TBS, CNN, TNT, and Cartoon Network. So this is a huge entertainment enterprise. And finding a partner, a strategic partner like Discovery is very, very important. Discovery as an organization, much smaller than AT&T, but they have a number of channels like Home and Garden, Learning Channel, Oprah Winfrey Network. It's a huge media deal. It combines two very strategic media companies into one behemoth that's going to be very effective in competing against Netflix, Disney, and Amazon, who are investing tens of billions of dollars in new content. So as a overall media offering, this new entity that's going to be run by the CEO of Discovery is going to be a powerhouse compared to the key competitors. Because right now, if you look at it, you know, Netflix doesn't have sports, Disney doesn't have a lot of reality shows, Amazon doesn't have news, and this new entity has all of this stuff.
A late spring storm is dumping plenty of snow in the Sierras. Check out what it looked like in Truckee along the California-Nevada border. A winter storm advisory went out, but even the locals didn't expect so much snowfall so late in May. Tourists on their way to Tahoe and Reno got a cold yet pleasant surprise. Locally, May Gray is sticking around. Melissa Constanzer has the weekend forecast.
We are keeping things cool heading into the weekend with some clouds, but don't worry, our temperatures are going to be on the rise. And next week, we warm up a little bit, bring back a bit more sunshine. Not that we're not seeing any of it at all. It hasn't been too bad out there. But those blustery winds you might have noticed, winds gusting at 30 miles per hour still through some of the mountains. Be cautious. That's a westerly wind. Those wind advisories persist into tonight, so it's still going to be a little blustery. Onshore flow, San Diego, we're going to fall to 58 degrees. Of course, getting some of those clouds. 52, the low in Oceanside. Lots of cool air still around, and yeah, maybe a shower or two for some of our mountain locations early on this evening. After that, though, I do think things die down for us, and we get the clouds. Marine layer comes back into the forecast for tomorrow morning, and we will also have some of those extra clouds on top of that. Now, this upper level low that's been creating so many of the problems across the Southwest continues to hang around for tomorrow. Heaviest rainfall with thunderstorms, that's going to be over the eastern Rockies. We're not going to be impacted from that too much, but we will still have the cool air. 67 the high in San Diego. Meanwhile, Chula Vista also in the mid-60s. Mount Laguna 49 for the high. It is a cool pattern. We do try to break into some sunshine through the afternoon, but we'll still keep a few clouds out there. And once we get through Saturday evening, another marine layer coming back ashore a little bit. Sunday, we'll have a cooler pattern remaining through most of the Southwest, although I think the story for us is trying to get back closer to average and drying out, which is why Sunday is warmer, lower 70s for us at the coast and mid 70s then for Monday and Tuesday. That's that rebound into next week. Inland locations, you'll actually rebound into the mid 80s after Sunday is in the mid 70s, and for the mountains, lower 60s, mid 60s on the board there. So things are looking better for us as far as more seasonable temperatures. And in the desert, probably back to the triple digits by Tuesday. For KPBS News, I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Melissa Constanzer.
The U.S. is seeing the ripple effects now that the rockets and airstrikes have stopped over Israel and Gaza. Jewish communities coast to coast are on edge after a series of attacks are caught on camera. Some of the images may be hard to watch. Here is reporter Isabel Rosales.
A ceasefire brings calm to the Middle East after more than 11 days of Israeli airstrikes on Gaza and rocket fire from Hamas. But in the United States, attacks on Jews are raising alarm bells from coast to coast.
People are very uncomfortable. We haven't seen this so far in the United States.
In Beverly Grove, California, a violent attack on a group of Jewish diners on Tuesday night. One diner says that a group of pro-Palestinian men got out of their car and started attacking them. The suspects allegedly asking them who was Jewish. Los Angeles police is investigating.
There was a hate crime. They was prepared. They came to fight with Jewish people.
And in Times Square, police say a group beat a Jewish man. The violent attack also caught on camera.
We have seen a dangerous and drastic spike in anti-Semitism here at home in just the past week to 10 days.
Amid the ceasefire between Israel and Gaza, the Anti-Defamation League warns there's a serious problem closer to home. The agency tracking a more than 50% boost in anti-Semitic acts in the U.S. in the last week.
Hate against any group, Asians, Jews, Palestinians, is wrong.
In Washington, Isabel Rosales, KPBS News.
It's election time in Mexico, and Baja California will soon get a new governor. KPBS reporter Tanya Thorne tells us about some of the candidates and how this election impacts San Diego.
Thousands of offices are at stake in Mexico's upcoming election. Almost half of the country will elect new governors. Christian Dunn, a representative for the Morena party, says June 6 will be a historic day for Mexican citizens to go to the polls.
This is the largest election in the history of Mexico because it's a concurrent election. Before, local elections were held one year and federal elections the next. For the first time, federal and local elections have been combined.
In Baja California, 7 candidates are running for governor. 3 of them are women. Rafael Fernandez de Castro, the director of U.S.-Mexican Studies at UC San Diego, says 3 candidates are currently leading the polls.
The one who is ahead in the polls is Maria del Pilar, which is the candidate of Morena, the party in power, and she is currently the mayor of Mexicali.
Pilar has been advocating for free drug rehabilitation, increased salaries for police forces, and keeping an eye on crime by setting up 10,000 security cameras. Following Pilar in the polls is best candidate Jorge Hank Ron, who owns the Tijuana soccer team, Los Cholos de Tijuana, as well as the largest sports betting company in Mexico, Grupo Caliente.
Who is a very controversial figure in Tijuana, in the entire Mexico.
Hank Ron has been rumored to be a suspect in a variety of money laundering investigations. His campaign message has been about providing security, education, and development. Fernandez de Castro says Hank Ron may also be taking votes from another top 3 candidate.
Well, people say that he's basically dividing and just limiting the chances of the coalition between PAN and PRI, who have Guadalupe Jones, a former Miss Universe.
Originally from Mexicali, Guadalupe Lupita Jones doesn't have much political experience, but says this is to her advantage as she says she is a true citizen candidate. She says she wants to create a model state for Baja California by creating a transparent government, stopping violence against women, and connecting Baja California with the rest of the world. Fernandez de Castro says Baja California could well be on its way to have the first woman governor, but voters first need to go out and vote.
And unfortunately, Baja California has a much lower turnout rate of voters than in other states.
Fernandez de Castro says in the last governor election, only 29% of Baja Californianos voted. In comparison, 64% of California voters participated in the 2018 gubernatorial election.
En esta campaña electoral
In this election, our biggest rivals aren't the competing parties. It's getting people to go out and vote and gaining their trust.
We asked Mexican citizens at the San Ysidro border if they were participating in the upcoming elections, and everyone shared similar sentiments as Brian Contreras.
I don't plan on voting. Every time a new government takes office, everything stays the same. We don't see the change.
Contreras works at an Amazon facility in Chula Vista and lives in Tijuana. Fernandez de Castro says this election will have an impact on San Diego.
There's a very important integration happening here. Is not only on the economy, is tourism, is social. There's a lot of family ties.
He says the connection between the U.S. and Mexico hasn't been taken advantage of due to poor government, but this election could shift that.
And what are the personalities will ensure that Baja California gets its house in order and profits and takes advantage of being next door to California, again, the single richest state in the U.S.
The elections will take place on Sunday, June 6th. The candidate with the most votes will become governor of Baja California on November 1st. Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
This is the last weekend of college for graduating seniors at SDSU. In-person commencement ceremonies begin next week. The university is spacing out its events with different schools holding ceremonies throughout the week at Petco Park. There will also be a virtual option. It's not just the class of 2021. Last year's graduating class is being invited back to take part in ceremonies which were canceled over the past year due to the pandemic. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.